So yesterday you learned about division and inequalities. As a quick review, we know that to solve this inequality here on the left, we would have to divide by 2 first to get x alone, and then 10 divided by 2 would be 5, and we'd rewrite that same inequality. Now the special rule we learned was that we have to divide this one by a -4. And what happens when you divide by a negative number? This sign is going to flip. Okay, so these -4's cancel, so I have x. My sign is going to flip, so instead of facing this way, I'm going to turn my mouth around with my equal sign underneath there, and 24 divided by -4 is going to give me a -6. And today we're still talking about solving an inequality. And like I've been saying, it's very nice because it's just like solving an equation. The only difference is there's no equal sign. There is this inequality sign. So up here are some steps for you to follow when you're solving an equation. Now, we should hopefully remember how to solve an equation, so maybe not have to refer to those steps as often. So if I look down here at example 1, the first thing I want to do is get x alone. So the thing I need to move first is this 3. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So now I have 2 is greater than or equal to 7 plus 3 is 10. Sorry, that sign is kind of ugly. And I forgot my x here. And now to get x alone, I need to divide by the number that's in front of it, which is 2. So now I'm going to have x is greater than or equal to, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay, moving on to example B. It's the same process. I need to first move this 4. Since there's an addition sign, to move it, I have to do the opposite sign, which is subtraction. So now I have -x. Those cancel, is less than 1. Now to get x by itself, I need to divide by a -1. And this is going to cover that special rule we learned yesterday. What happens when you divide by a negative? You have to flip your inequality sign, and 1 divided by -1 is going to give us -1. So our answer is x is greater than -1. Okay, example C. The first thing I'm going to move here is my 6. Since it's positive, I'm going to subtract it. And I'm left with a -2x is greater than, and a -4 minus 6 is a -10. Now I have to divide by a -2. And I hear divide by a negative, so I know automatically I have to flip that sign. So I'm left with x is less than, and -10 divided by -2 is a +5. Moving on to our next example here on D, when I have a number outside the parentheses, the first thing I need to do is distribute. So -2 times x gives me a -2x, and a -2 times a -1 is going to give me a +2, and then I'm going to rewrite the rest of my equation. And now I'm at the same process as what I was in examples A, B, and C. So the first thing I want to move is the 2, so I'm going to subtract it from both sides. So now I have -2x is less than or equal to 4 minus 2 is 2. I have to divide by a -2. And remember, when you divide by that negative, that's our special rule. So I'm going to have to flip my sign. So now I have x is greater than or equal to, and 2 divided by -2 gives me a -1. So that is our answer. Our next example here was the fraction. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. I'm going to go by multiplying by the reciprocal. Okay, and that's when you multiply by the fraction, the flipped version. So I'm going to multiply each side by 3/2. So over here, the fractions cancel completely, and I'm left with just x minus 6, because if you multiply by reciprocal, both numbers cross cancel. And I'm going to write my sign the same. And 0 times 3/2 is 0, because anything times 0 is 0. And now I've got my simple inequality. So I can add 6 to both sides, and I have x is greater than or equal to 0 plus 6, which is 6. Okay, and one more example. Now, we have variables on both sides. So we have to remember we want all the x's on one side and all the numbers on the other. So I'm going to move Whoops. Sorry that the screen moved. I'm going to move all of my variables to the right side. So I'm going to subtract 3x first. We always want to move those variables first. So they cancel here, and what I'm left with is a 4 is less than 6x minus 3x is 3x minus 1. Now I just need to move my numbers to the other side. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So now I've got 4 plus 1, which is 5, is less than the 3x. Nothing happened to it, so I'm going to leave it there. And then to get x alone, I'm going to divide by 3. And now I have 5 over 3. It's not negative, so I don't need to flip it, but those don't divide into each other. So you can just leave your answer in the fraction form. So I'm going to write it up here. 5/3 is less than x, and that is going to be your answer. Now there is a guided practice section in your notebook, in your note packets. It's the next box. I want you guys to do those examples, and the sub will come around and she can check those answers and look at those for you. And then I want you to move on, and this is your homework for tonight, page 339, numbers 20 to 31. And then if you finish that, please finish the 6-1 and 6-2 worksheets. Tomorrow you will have a review, and then Friday you are going to have a quiz over 6-1 to 6-3. So make sure you're keeping up with your work, and that's it.